The settings of the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic allows you to customize this machine for the way you sew and the way you embroider. Start by finding where the little gears are, and we're going to go into the settings menu. So where it says temporary, those setting areas will be for just when the machine is on, so you're like just adjusting them, but they're going to go back to the default settings when you turn the machine off. You do have temporary sewing, temporary embroidery, and then default sewing and default embroidery. So if you want them to stay on all the time, you'll want to change those settings in the default sewing and embroidery area. You have machine settings, Wi-Fi settings, My SewNet settings, and machine information. So to open them up, start by going to the arrow on the side, and this will kind of pop down that particular kind of category and let you turn things on and off. So if the bubble is showing a blue dot, that means it's on, but you can also turn them off. So if you don't want your foot to always be lifting, you can turn that off. I like mine on, honestly. Automatic thread cutter, so this is engaged when there's, like when you sew buttonholes, there's an automatic thread cutter that's just gonna immediately stitch. The automatic fix, there are places where it's gonna lock for you, but if you don't want those, you can turn it off. The stitch width safety is something, by the way, you can turn on by yourself, and I sometimes do that when I'm using the 1/4 inch foot. So then my foot, I'm not allowed to pick a zigzag or a decorative stitch and break my needle. Another thing that you could do is just attach the straight stitch throat plate, and that will trigger the stitch width safety option in the settings immediately because it's centered on the back, and the machine knows when this plate goes on and also when it goes off. So that is a fabulous feature, by the way, but I do like to use it when I'm using feet with just like a center needle position. If you're going to add a twin needle, you can go ahead and say set it for 2.0, and that would be on the needle size. And watch what happens. When you pick a stitch, you'll see that the stitch on screen will show what it looks like with that particular size of double needle. So I love this because it's like virtual stitch. I get to see what it looks like before I even pick that. So that is a nice feature with this machine. So I'm going to go back in, temporary, not the embroidery, but the sewing, and I'll go ahead and turn that off. So that's turned off. We also have your feed teeth options, so feed dogs up or down. Auto means that they will lower from time to time, like when you switch over to free motion quilting. If you choose to sew a button on, they're going to automatically lower as well. But if you need to manually do it at any other time, you can do that right here. Temporary embroidery settings. Let's open up this screen. So again, you can tell the machine which foot you're actually using. And there's times where I actually turn the thread cutter off. So if I'm doing a lot of little letters on something and you're going to see the back of it, I actually turn the thread cutter options off. I don't want it cutting on the back and making it kind of look messy. Yes, I still have to cut the threads on the front, but it is nice to be able to have that control. So there's a time and place to leave your thread cutter on as well as turning it off. Twin needle options. Have you ever thought about that? You can actually embroider with a twin needle on, and you would be able to pick that at that point. Default sewing settings, so again, different things that are defaulted, and also where your free motion options are. So depending on which free motion foot you are using, or if you're using like a specialty ruler work foot, you can go ahead and set those for those, and even adjust the height. Free motion floating is usually what I use when I use my ruler work feet on here. I'm going to just kind of collapse a few of these up so it's not so full and open, and that is a nice thing about these. Here we go. So down to the machine settings. So this is like your English or language of your choice, your volume. So if you don't want it to touch or beep every time you touch the screen, you can do that. Now, if you see some things on here that you do not have on your Epic, it's because you don't have the latest update. So make sure you log into your My SewNet and the Wi-Fi, and you will have that downloaded to you every time a new update is. So there's the clock is on here. You can name your Designer Epic. That'll show up on those the screensavers, and when it turns on, it's kind of fun. Down here it shows you how much sewing and embroidery time you've had since the last time you touched reset. So if you've touched reset and it says 0, 0, that's just like starting a new project. How many hours or minutes have you taken to sew it out. Wi-Fi settings, so this would be like how you would connect to your own Wi-Fi at your home or business. And so the networks in my area look like this. And then when you enter it, it'll be asked for your network password, and then you'll be able to log in. My SewNet settings, this is your cloud. For example, I have a ton of designs on here, and I haven't even used up half the space on this machine. I'm signed in with Heirloom Creations, our store, and then so if I need to sign out, I can do that. Machine information, this is just like your serial number and basic information about the machine and its update and firmware. So the settings are great. Jump in there every so often and remind yourself what you have. There was one more thing in the, in the default embroidery settings, the My Hoops. I use this all the time. The hoop list, these are the hoops that I currently have in my possession. So if the machine picks a design or I pick a design, it'll pick the hoop closest to one of the ones that I have that it fits in, and then I don't have to worry about scrolling through as many of the hoops, because the Viking does make a ton of hoops for this machine and so many of their machines. But what it does is it filters the ones you have to the top and the ones you don't have to the bottom. It's a lot easier to find your hoop size when you're looking for them. So I love going in there. Just have to remember that when you do pick up a new hoop, you get a new hoop for Christmas or your birthday, you got to come in here and add it to the list. Otherwise, it won't show up and it won't let you use it. So just remember to update your hoop list as you buy more hoops. So this should get you started. Love the ability to customize the machine for the way I sew and the way you can sew.